Hey folks, MBS here. Well, I've got a little 1-barrel Stromberg that was given to me for my services in helping a guy out with his rocket geometry. And what I'm going to do with it is put a kit through it. 1-barrel Stromberg, a 1 and 132 off a old grey motor. Anyway, I will show you how to pull one down. Pretty easy, it's no problem pulling it apart, but I'll show you a few tips and tricks you should watch out for when you're putting it back together. And so let's get into it. As with any carburetor of this age, you'll probably find you've got stripped threads here and there, especially in these top screws. They can get done up too tight and cross-threaded, and just old age of threads can destroy the thread, and next thing you know you've pulled the thread out of the body. But you can put heli coils in there, guys, not a big problem. Now normally when you take the top off, it's connected with an arm down to the bottom here on that cam profile, and you usually have to turn it upside down and unlock it to get it off. Okay, so it's pretty easy. We have our power valve plunger in there, so we'll put that aside for the time being. Now the link has been disconnected on the bottom, so normally there's a link in there that you would undo the clip and then pull that link out while holding down on the accelerator pump, and then pulling that U-piece out, and that allows you to pull the plunger out. Okay. There we go. There's a lot of crap on the base there, made it hard to pull out. And then of course you're going to have this very brittle gasket, which will be no good to us anymore. And it's got the leather pump plunger in it, which is great. Idle jet right down the guts here, and yeah, it's not even tight. We'll go along and check all these numbers later. Okay, down inside the carburetor you've got a power valve on this side, and you've got the accelerator pump check valve on that side. Alright, underneath the accelerator pump. Now I've got a little screwdriver here that's been modified, got a slot in it. That's to fit over the power valve pin. You can also use that screwdriver to undo the check valve. Okay, then you generally turn that upside down, the jets will fall out. Okay, this is nothing more than a check valve, and to check it, you just put your mouth up to it and try and suck through it. Just seal off that end. Now there's a little hole in the side there that if you put your mouth over that and you suck on it and you can suck through it, you need to replace that. Okay, that will affect your accelerator pump. Then you've got the jet with the pin in it. That is your power valve. When that plunger on here loses vacuum, it comes down, opens up that jet and allows extra fuel to go through on your power valve. Alright, so once again you can check it by putting that up to your mouth and sealing it off and see if it leaks. Now we could take the body off if we wanted to at this stage, or we could do the float, either or, doesn't matter. Take these two big screws out the side. Now you'll be quite surprised, there'll be a bit of warpage in this little plate, and we'll discuss that a little later as we're preparing it for reassembly. So we can take that off. You have your sandwich plate, and we'll take that away. And this has got a few cobwebs in it and bugs growing in there. It's been probably in a box in the garage for a long time. And we'll check the disc. More importantly, we want to check the throttle shaft. Okay, so we put the throttle, hold the base down like so, and wriggle the shaft. Okay, it's got a little bit in it, but you know, that is okay. We'll take the mixture screw out. We'll check the condition of the needle tip, make sure it's not grooved in, because a lot of people overdo these and screw them right in tight, and then they put a big ring in that taper, which is not too good. If we wanted to, we could go all the way, pull the screws out of the throttle disc, take the end piece off. Early carburetors, the 1 and 132, have a different size hole in there for the shaft, and that's a different shaft. But you can fit later model shafts to these. You can get standard or oversized. and they have the nut on each end, the big nut, not this little tiny one. So you have to end up modifying this little piece off the carburetor to fit the new shaft if you're doing that. Alright, so just beware of that. That's your vacuum port for your vacuum advance. You don't have to pull that out if you don't want to. You got the two big plugs at the bottom. Now they can be tight, but not this one. Alright, so we take that off, we take that off. That plug over the main jet, the other plug is over the accelerator pump circuit. Now we've got our little check valve down the bottom for the accelerator pump, and it can be tight like that one was. This will be another one of those. Put it up to your mouth, make sure it doesn't leak. Alright, just this end up, put your mouth over that, suck the ball up to it and make sure it seals. Okay, if that doesn't seal properly, you'll have accelerator pump problems. Alright, now the main jet. You'll need a special tool for that one, otherwise you will not get it out. And that's the main jet out. Okay, once again we'll check for sizes. The size is written in little stamped letters in the edge of it. And we might even take the discharge nozzle out, and that's what this little tool is for. Let's see if we can actually get it out. I probably won't be able to do it. Yeah, we might attempt to try and get that one out after we dip it. It might loosen up a bit. Now this has got some odd attachment onto the end of it, like a double adapter. Don't know why they did that, but there you go. Okay, now we just got to get this little clip out for the float, and that's just a simple matter of getting a screwdriver, coming in through that side and giving it a tiny little whack. Probably better with a hammer, and that clip may spring out, and it did. So that doesn't matter, we get a new one in the kit, and that pin is seized onto the float, so that float probably wouldn't be working too well. Alright, apart from the discharge nozzle, we've got this all apart. Alright, just needs a good clean, a good surface. We will do the surface grinding after we get it cleaned up. What we're going to do is we're going to surface grind this. We're going to surface grind the top. We're going to panel beat this a little bit on the edges here so that they straighten up a little bit so that this fits on flat. Okay. Now some people would say, well, why would you want to do that when if you fit this the same way as it came off, it's going to conform to the curvature? Yeah, okay. That seems like a fair thing. You could do that and not bother touching that or that surface, because once you straighten this, then you have to straighten that. Okay, so getting the power valve out, I've got a trick little, it's not a trick little tool, it's a little screwdriver heavily modified with a little curl on the end. There, you pick that up. The best tool of course is a double one. Like if I bent this screwdriver over, that would probably be a better thing because it would go around the pin like so, and then you could clamp it and take it off. But we'll have a go with this one and see if it's seized in there or not. If it's seized in there, guess what I'll be doing? Yep, that will not come out with that. Once again, we'll attempt to pull that out after we dip it in some acid and get it a little bit cleaned up and see if that loosens it up. And that's it, guys. Alright, that's it. We'll come back to this once I've got this cleaned up, and we'll see if I can get this jet out and that discharge nozzle out, and we'll continue on from there. Rightio, time to reassemble. Now I've ultrasonically cleaned everything and acid bathed it. Came up pretty reasonable. There are a couple of outstanding issues here that we need to explain. How did I get that plunger out, since you saw that I couldn't easily get it out? After I dipped it, I still couldn't get it out with both those tools. So how I did it was, I used a punch while it was inserted into the top, and I lifted that spring up in here. I put the punch on the screwdriver slot and gave it a bit of a tap, and all I had to do was just loosen it just that little bit, and then I was able to get it out with my little curly screwdriver. Alright, so that's that one. Discharge jet. Oh, that was fun. I ended up screwing this little tool into it. Okay, so it grabbed a good bite of it, and what I had to end up doing was tapping that with a hammer or lifting it up in the vise to jerk it out, and it eventually came out. So quite difficult to get this out. You may be able to get a long PK screw or self-tapping screw and screw it in there and then pull it out with a pair of side cutters sort of thing and lever it out. That might work too. Now, I was hoping that these washers would stay in here after the clean. There's two little copper washers sitting in here that need to be removed. So, to get these out, use a very, very fine tool like this. Oh, where am I? And grab it under the copper and pop them out. Yeah? Now, try not to damage the surface they're sitting on. If you dig into that surface here and create a big scratch mark, these washers won't seal and you'll have a fuel leak. Alright, the kit we'll be using is an SSB 652. That's got the leather pump plunger in it. Alright, that's the one you want. You don't want the SB 652, otherwise you'll get a rubber pump plunger. You get a couple of extra gaskets. This one kit fits all, so we throw them away. We don't get the base gasket for a 132. It's only for the 161 up to a 202 you get base gaskets, so we won't use them. And I was mistaken, you do not get that clip for the float in the kit. Luckily I found it laying on the ground, and you get that new arm. Now if you don't want to modify this or go to the trouble of filing or whatever you have to do to get this to fit this shaft, use the old one. Don't bother pulling it apart unless you're reshafting. If you're reshafting and putting a later model shaft in it, because you can't get these shafts anymore, you don't have to modify this at all. It'll fit straight onto the new shaft. But you can test this, put the U-link in there. If it's nice fit, don't bother replacing it if you don't want to. Okay, and you'll get all your washers, needle and seat. Alright, so I'm going to assemble the body first and take care of that. Now I've planed them a little bit on some sandpaper, 120 grit I think this was the case. Filed them all a little bit flat, and now we will go and put it all together. Discharge tube. Okay, so you want that facing the correct orientation, yeah. You know, this bit here, when it's sitting in the carburetor straight up and down, it should be, that slot there should be angled vertically. So you want to get that very, very close to where it should be, and you just push it in and get a little punch and just push it, tap it. Now it's gone crooked, so I'm going to have to twist it a little bit when I go and get it in. There we go, I've straightened it up. Now we put our main jet in. So we'll install the main jet. That pushes up against the discharge tube and locks it in place. Okay, we'll check that that is sitting straight up and down. Okay, so there you have a close-up of it. How close can we get for you to see it? Okay, you'll see the orientation of that. That's the main jet taken care of. Now we could probably put a sealing ring in. Drop that in there, get the big plug and finish that off. These get done up pretty tight. If you've got a monster screwdriver, that's the best way to do these up, because they have to be pretty tight to crush the little piece of copper that goes in there. Now, the other side, Now we've tested all of these against our mouth, make sure that they're not leaking. So that's the check valve underneath the accelerator pump. This valve here is what allows petrol to fill up the accelerator pump chamber when the pump plunger goes up. And of course it stops the fuel from going back into the fuel bowl when you push the plunger down. So then we put our plug in there and seal that up. Once again we use a bigger screwdriver. I will tighten these up with another screwdriver a little later. So that's the bottom done. Flip it over, have a look at your idle tube, suck through the tube, make sure it's clear, check the size against the chart, make sure it's correct. Okay, now we've got our power valve and our other discharge nozzle. Now this jet here underneath the accelerator pump, it's just there to offer some small resistance to the pump plunger so that the leather spreads out into the bore and gives a nice positive push, and it opens that valve in here and then it comes out the discharge. So we'll get the little washers, put them underneath that and just drop it down in there. Power valve, and once again we've checked that with our mouth and make sure that it works and not leaking. Drop that into place. We'll use our little fork screwdriver for the power valve. I'll use it for the other one as well. And that's done. Right. Now, let's do the pump plunger. Take off the protective sleeve. You see the pump plunger. Now you need to dip that in petrol or light machine oil. And we're just going to put a few drops around the plunger like so. Let it soak in. And then we're going to spread it out carefully with our fingers. Okay. So, like so. Now we're going to fit it into the bore. And you just don't push it straight in, guys. So you will be asking for trouble. You put it in at an angle while spinning it and try and get it to go into that bore. And you see there how that's kinked it. Okay, didn't want to go too well. I'm not impressed with these new ones. They've obviously changed the design. They're making that a little bit harder to get them in. Very, very hard actually. All that wants to do is just push the leather up, which isn't good. That's going to be difficult to get in. So just be very careful of that. Just don't force it in. Make sure that it is going in correctly. Okay? Otherwise you will strike trouble. Yep, look at that. That is unacceptable. All it's done is just bent the leather because it doesn't want to go in. This maybe shouldn't have been spread out like the instructions say, but this is going to be very problematic getting this in, guys. However, if we have to use a picker or something like that, I'm not going to use this one, and get it in there and then try and push the picker down beside the leather and just push it into the bore, then that's what we have to do, yeah? And then that way we won't damage it. And I guess that's what I'm going to do. Well, that wasn't too hard. That little picker worked wonderfully. I just kicked it off to the side and then just pushed it down between the leather and the bore and got it tucked in, and it went straight in. So we've got our spring. Now, this is the good part. We're going to have to do a bit of panel beating and a bit of cutting on that. So, look at all the play in here. Okay, not too great. The only thing we can do there is panel beat a little dent in the top here, or a little bit lower if we can, and close that gap up so it's not moving so much. Back in the day there was a special spring you could buy that went over the top of this spring, which took care of that play, but you can't get that anymore. So what we're going to do here is put a punch into the side there and give her a tap. Okay, and you keep doing that until, oh look, I'm happy with that the first time round. There's a little bit of play there, there's a little bit of side play, but we're not going to worry about that. But we've made that a lot better. Now the other thing with the pump plunger, which I probably should have done before I got to this stage, and that was cut that tip off. Alright, that's for your later model carburetors, and it's not necessary for this carburetor because it doesn't have a vent. So we just simply snip that off, not important. If it was a late model carburetor, you would end up putting one of these caps on it, depending what sort of vent style you had and the model of the carburetor. So we can put that on. We're probably a little bit premature here, going a little bit out of sequence. We could put that on, but we've still got the float to go, so we might just leave the pump plunger sitting in there like so, and we might get this float sorted and fitted. Now I had to do a little bit of extra work on this to clean up this pin because it was seized onto the float. So fit your pin, make sure the float swings nice and easy on it, okay? And then drop it into its position. Grab that little spring clip, pair of pointy nose pliers, and drop it down into place. It should sit on top of the pin when fitted, and if it doesn't, once again get yourself a little screwdriver and push it into the groove. Oh, it's popped out. Remember I lost this? Yeah, I ended up finding it. It was on the floor a couple of meters away. So we definitely want to get this sitting in the right spot on top of the float pin. Now this is easier when it's attached to the base because see this is wriggling all over the place. Now I've got it sitting right where I want it, and then we push that circuit over to that little hook at the very top. Yeah. We make sure that it is sitting on the pin, and it's the reverse of what we did punching it out. So we're just going to put it on the edge. Come around here. Probably can't see that. All we want to do is hook it back underneath that little edge, just like that. And it goes back underneath that little lip that's protruding out inside the bowl. Make sure that the two outer edges are sitting on that pin, okay, and that's hooked underneath. So to make sure that that's sitting in there properly, you just push it up against this way, up against the body, and that's all good. Now we can put the needle and seat in. You'll notice this one is a Viton seat, and much better. Can handle the dirt a lot easier. And we screw that in, and we nip that up. Don't tighten the crap out of it, or you'll strip the thread. Now the float level. Okay, that float level, let's see if we can get it this way, is too low. Okay, I like to have the top of the float parallel with the body. So to adjust it, we just bend this tag outwards a little bit, enables us to go a little higher. We need to go a little more. Okay, so when you've got that parallel, that is your float level setup. Beautiful. We've got our jets in, we've got our pump plunger in. Now it's time to work on the base. Yeah. Now this sandwich plate, which way does it go on? Well, if you put it up against your base like this, you will see that it only goes on one way. Because if you flip it over like so, the holes don't line up. Alright, you're actually blocking off the holes. This one here is a passage for your power valve, vacuum that goes well below the butterfly. The goes up to the top and controls the suction on that piston. The other one is of course your idle circuit. Now in some carburetors you will notice that in the idle circuit you might find a little piece of aluminium rod sitting in there. Okay, that's some sort of diffuser, just meant to break up the fuel as it's going down that channel. Not all carbies have got them. The old early carbies didn't have them. Now when you fit this, it's the slot in that plate matches the slot in the body. Okay, now since I've machined this, look at the mismatch. Okay, so now we're going to do panel beat this, and before we can fit that and bolt this all back up. Now what we're going to do with that is we're going to use a hammer. In the old days I had a special jig that I would put this in the press and it would cover out to there and go over the venturi, and I'd heat this up with an oxy torch only to about 150 degrees or so, and I'd press that down and make it flat. These days I haven't got that. So remember I said to you, you can either choose to machine this or not to. If you choose not to machine it, then it should conform to the shape and you'd be able to put it all back together and the gaskets should seal. But because I'm re-kitting it and doing the job correctly, I'm going to make sure everything's flat. Alright, so we're going to put this in the vise. That pump plunger won't fall out because it's in there quite tight. Put it on a flat surface and belt the ends here a little bit using this plate against it to check how square I got it. When that wriggle disappears, I've got it flat. Okay, that wasn't too hard. The slot in there, the slot in there, we match them back up. Have a look at this. That is almost perfect. Not perfect, but the gasket will take up any difference there. Now the punch I used, make sure it's a big round punch so that you're not gouging into the carburetor body and you're not damaging anywhere near these holes here, because they need to seal for the vacuum and the fuel mixture. Alright, and you do have to give it a little bit of a hit. It's not a big hit, but it's fairly decent. Now you'll get two gaskets. The gaskets will both be slotted. If you do get one that's got a round hole in it and the other one's slotted, then fit them in the correct fashion. And we'll put that on there. Then we can put that one on there. Okay, and would certainly pay to check them both way around, so make sure that the holes are fully open, yeah, just in case, because as you saw when I put that sandwich plate in, okay, check that gasket out, see how it's covering half the hole, so that needs to go on that way in that particular case. And when we go this one lined up beautifully. I will turn it round and check it the other way, and you can see this hole here just becomes partially blocked. So in this case, this one goes this way, and both holes are fully open. Alright, so just be careful of that little one, and we put that through, find our two big bolts, we'll get them to go through. The one thing I didn't do was file that little lug off. So guess what I'm going to be doing? I'm going to be screwing this in. Not a big deal. You can leave it alone. It just means you've got to screw this in rather than push it through. Okay, so there we have that. Get it lined up with that gasket and get the thread started. Okay. And nip that up with reasonable strength. Okay. We've now got that part assembled. Now to finish off the accelerator pump, put our spring on, put our top gasket on, put our link arm on. Okay, this stage you could put that little circlip in there. Don't throw any of the old stuff away, guys, just in case the kits have been modified and you don't get what you're expecting. Now to put the link back on in here, we will use the new one. Sometimes you have to push down the pump plunger to get it to meet that link, and just put it in like so. Yeah. This little clippy here, we might have to do a close-up of this one. Clip like so, you push it through, put the eyelet onto the top piece, and then pull that over and then behind. Okay, I hope that came out alright. And now we've got a working pump plunger. Now let's get to this top bit. Oh, let's put the mixture screw in while we're here. Okay, so screw in back in. Just careful when you're screwing this in that you don't over tighten it. You want to feel it till it stops. Half, 1.5 turns. That should get us going. Now this pump plunger, common fault with a lot of these carburetors, that little wash plug in there falls out. Hey, yeah, I've seen it so many times. When that wash plug falls out, this stops operating because the vacuum just goes past the piston and just leaks vacuum internally through here, and the piston never gets lifted up, which means your power valve is engaged all the time. That's an easy fix, that one, because I bet you won't find the wash plug in the carburetor when you pull it apart. It just suddenly somehow disappears. It's never in there. Alright, get a, I think it's a 1/8 ball bearing, jam it in there. Alright, you'll never have that problem ever again in its life. Okay, so that's a good solution for that one. And we will use our little screwdriver to tighten that up. Okay, when we're putting the top on, since I don't have the rod, and it doesn't matter in this one because it's held in by split pins, so I can actually put this on without that linkage. Okay, some carburetors will have a bar that goes across here, some won't. The early carbies didn't have them. Alright, and that does stop them from warping. And if you're interested in your carburetor number, it's written right here. This is actually a 23, which tells me it's a Holden 1050. Alright, and there'll be a whole stack of different numbers depending what model car it came off. And that chart is on my website. You can download that, and it goes through all the series numbers for Holden, Ford, Chrysler, Dodge. Anything that had a Stromberg carby fitted to it will have that code there and tell you exactly what that carby is off. So if you're familiar with the numbers, just all you need to know is the first two numbers. 23 Holden, okay, 2 Ford, easy peasy. Alright, choke cable bracket in here. Now you'll get a stack of different screws. Remember, this is missing a couple, so I'll go and find a few and put them in there. Long screw goes into bracket. Okay, if you had that bar going across here, they'd be longer screws as well. We alluded to earlier, I do have oversized screws that we could use if the thread does get stripped. Okay, so the only thing I'm missing is the link for the choke. Okay, when the choke comes on, the rod will pick up the fast idle cam and increase its idle speed. You can see there that when I operate the choke linkage, the throttle opens. Okay, that's all that connecting rod is for your choke. Alright, and that's your carby done, guys. Hope you enjoyed that one barrel Stromberg re-kit, and it's a pretty simple job. The only hard bit, of course, is if you haven't got this tool to pull out that discharge tube. I told you how to do that with a PK screw. And you do need a main jet tool. Yeah, you definitely need one of those. They're readily available on eBay, so don't panic that if you haven't got one, you can just pick one up on eBay. Alright guys, I can't show you any more. we've shown you the problems, we've shown you how to put the sandwich plate in correctly, and I will probably pawn this off onto eBay, someone that's interested in it. Alright, catch you in another video.